Greetings everyone, Namaskar. Hope all of you are doing well. Let us begin our Gita study with a Shanti Mantra, peace chant from the Adhyatma Ramayana. Adhyatma Ramayana is, as you know, different from Valmiki Ramayana. It's a much smaller book, Adhyatma Ramayana. The emphasis in Adhyatma Ramayana is more on Adhyatma teaching, Vedanta teaching. Again, stories serves as a background, Ramayana story. So, this is on page 92 of the book, The Universal Prayers. At the top, the first one on page 92. And the English is on page 93. Om Tvam Shuddha Bodhosi Sarvadehinam Atmasya Dhishosi Nirakriti Swayam Pratiyase Jnanadrisham Mahamate Padabja Bhrangahita Sangha Sanginam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O Lord Omniscient, Thou verily art the absolute consciousness, the Atman and the Master of all beings, the formless reality. Thou revealest Thyself unto those whose eye of knowledge has opened, and who, like the bee, have their mind ever fixed on Thy lotus feet. Om peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts. May there be peace and harmony amongst all the beings, no ill will, no hatred. And may there be peace everywhere in nature, Adi Daivika Shanti. So we will continue with our study of chapter 6. Arjuna has asked a very important question, which is of much interest to all of us, all spiritual seekers. And this question is expressed in 3 verses, beginning from 37, chapter 6, verse 37, 38, 39. In these 3 verses, Arjuna asks one question. Simply put, the question is what happens after death to a spiritual seeker who has done spiritual practice but has not reached the goal. What will happen to all the work that such a person has done? Will it all be wasted? What will happen? That was the question. So I'll just chant the 3 slokas, Arjuna's question, 37, 38, 39, and then we'll understand Bhagavan Sri Krishna's answers. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopeto yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim krishna gacchati kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaschinna bhramiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmana pathi etanme samshayam krishna chettumarhasya sheshatah tvadanyas samshayasyasya chetta nahipapadyate. The question is, when a person who has been striving for a spiritual realization, but along the way falls from the path of yoga, deviates, and does not reach the goal. For such a person, what will happen after he or she dies? Will he lose everything that he or she has done? What will happen to all the work that such a person has done? That is the question. And Arjuna says, You are the only one who can answer this question and clarify this doubt. So please explain what happens. Now Sri Krishna's answer begins from verse number 40 onwards. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Parthanaiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. Very important, very positive message. Sri Krishna says, for such a person who has done even a little bit of spiritual practice, such a person will never perish. Nothing really bad will happen to such a person. He or she may not be able to reach the goal in the present life, but nothing bad will happen. Partha, Arjuna, this verse number 40, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Iha means in this life, Amutra means in the future life, the life yet to come. Iha Amutra tasya vinashaha na vidyate. You see the word na combined with naiveha. Partha naiveha na eva iha. Na is there. Na vidyate. Vinashaha na vidyate. Such a person will never perish, who has done some spiritual practice. Nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. Very famous statement. Kalyana krit means a person who performs good deeds. Kalyana krit kaschid durgatim kutsitam gati etatam. Kalyana krit means a person who does good deeds like worshipping God, going on pilgrimages, doing charity, studying scriptures, seeking holy company, doing some repetition of God's name, any kind of spiritual practice, helping other people with unselfish motive, any kind of such good work if a person has done, such a person is called a Kalyanakrit, one who has done or is doing good deeds. For such a person, na durgatim gacchati. You never go down. Durgati means the evil end, life ending in misery and suffering. That won't happen. He says, the term a disciple is like a son. Neither in this world, nor in the world that is yet to come, in the next life. Amutra, such a person does not come to ruin, for no evil betides the doer of good. If somebody does good, only good will happen. Bad things will not happen to person who has been doing good things. Sometimes it appears so. Good people suffer though they have not done anything bad in this life, but that is to be explained as due to prarabdha, earlier karma bearing fruit now. That's the only explanation we have. The question why bad things happen to good people comes up very often, and there are books on that one. But the karma theory explanation is the closest that we can get. For anything that happens in human life, there is an antecedent. Nothing happens without a cause at random. There is a cause for every event that happens in our life. So if the cause for a certain event, especially a bad event, cannot be explained in the present life, then the explanation is it is due to the effect of previous karma done earlier in an earlier life, which is bearing fruit now. Such a karma we call prarabdha karma, that which has begun to bear fruit. But for a doer of good deed, nothing bad will happen. So that is for a spiritual seeker, no loss of effort. Now what happens specifically two possibilities are explained here. When such a person dies, spiritual seeker dies, before reaching the goal of realization, what will happen? Two possibilities are given, scenarios are given. One is such a person is born in the family of very rich, meritorious people. That is verse number 41. 41. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samah shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate. Punyakritam lokan prapya. Punyakrit means kalyanakrit, a person who does good deeds. The people who do good deeds in this life, they all go to some loka or heaven where they enjoy the fruits of their good deeds. So such a person who has done good deeds, he will go to such a loka. He will go to heaven where he will enjoy the fruits of his good deeds. Punyakritam lokan prapya, having reached the world where all people who have done good deeds have gone. Tatra shashvati samaha ushitva, living there for a long time. Shashvati samaha means for very many years, long time. Ushitva, having lived there. Then what happens? Next line is important. This verse number 41. Shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhijayate. Yoga bhrashta means a person who has fallen from yoga, who has done some yoga, spiritual practice, but has not reached the goal, has deviated from the path of yoga. Such a person, having gone to the world of people who have done good deeds, have gone to such a loka, having lived there for a long time, he will be born in the family of Shuchinam Srimatam Gehi. Shuchi means pure, meritorious people. Srimatam means well-to-do people. The one who has slipped from yoga is born in a home of pure and prosperous householders, where the environment will be conducive to further spiritual progress from where he left off in the previous life. So that is a very positive, encouraging message. Even if we don't reach the goal, if we have done spiritual practice, we will be born again in a family which is in which the environment is conducive to further spiritual progress. Family of well-to-do people and pure people, meritorious people. Otherwise, if a person is born in some kind of a family where such situation is not conducive to spiritual progress, extreme poverty, living in a slum, and or diseases and all those kinds of families, if a person is born, it's very hard to do any spiritual practice. Daily existence becomes a struggle in itself. But such a person will be born in a family, meritorious, pure people and well-to-do people. So they don't have to worry about basic needs, they can concentrate on spiritual progress, spiritual practice. So that is one possibility. Shloka number 41. Second possibility is even more interesting. The verse number 42. Athava or Athava yogina meva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadi drisham. Or dhimatam yoginam kule bhavati. Dhimata means very intelligent yogis. In their family, such a person will be born. See, the birth is environment is very important. If a person is born in a reasonably good family, there is opportunity for spiritual progress and worldly progress and everything. But many children are born in very undesirable families. Father is somewhere else and mother is somewhere else, somebody is in jail, drug addict, all those things happen in this world. But if a child is born in such a family, what can a child do? Struggle for existence, for basic needs. That won't happen to a spiritual seeker. Dhimatam yoginameva kule bhavati. Such a person will be born in the family of very intelligent yogis. This kind of birth, etaddi janma, loke durlabhataram. This kind of birth in the family of very intelligent yogis is very rare in this world. Durlabhataram, very difficult to get. Such families are not many. Very rare, such families where everybody is practicing yoga, some form of spiritual practice seriously, and they don't have to worry about basic needs, and they are very intelligent and very sattvic people. To be born in such a family is a gift. That's what happens to a person who has fallen from yoga bhrishtaha. So two possibilities, either in the family of meritorious, pure and well-to-do people, or in the family of very intelligent yogis. Such a person will be reborn. Now, the interesting thing is, what happens when such a person is born in such a family? More specifically, the question is, this person who could not reach goal in the previous life but had done spiritual practice, what happens to all that spiritual practice that such a person had done? Will it be lost or will it be saved? That question is answered in the next sloka, next two slokas. Verse number 33. Tatratam buddhi samyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuyah samsiddhau kuru nandana. Tatra means in that next life, either in the family of meritorious, pure people, well-to-do people, or in the family of intelligent yogis. When such a person is born in such a family in that life, Paurvadehikam buddhi samyogam labhate. Samyoga means union. With what? Paurvadehikam buddhi samyoga. Purvadeha means in the previous birth. Whatever spiritual practice that person had done in the previous birth, which was not enough to gain liberation, whatever spiritual practice had been done, with that this person will be connected. He will start from there. Then such a person acquires a memory of the ideas relating to his previous body. Such a person will continue spiritual practice from the point where he had left off in the previous birth. That means the work done in the previous birth will be saved. Nothing will be lost. In spiritual life, no loss of effort. That came earlier also. Tataha bhuyaha samsiddhau yatate. Again, he will strive for perfection, for liberation. Samsiddhi means perfection or liberation. Tataha, from that point onwards. See, this had already been mentioned in the second chapter, verse number 40. There, second chapter, verse number 40, Sri Krishna had said, in spiritual life, there is no loss of effort. And there is also no adverse side effect, which are possible in worldly life. I gave the example of a Two examples. A farmer who plows the field and sows the seed and waits for rain. If the rain comes in the at the proper time, in proper quantity, he will get a good crop. His work will be successful. If there is not enough rain, the crop will not come. If there is too much rain, the crop will be washed away. So all the work that the farmer had done will not produce any result if there is no crop. Total loss. That won't happen in spiritual life. No loss of effort. The second example I gave is a person starts a startup company, borrows capital and hires people and does all the arrangements, gets the permits and starts an office and everything. After working hard for 2 years, the company does not make any money, it falls, there is loss, and he has to declare bankruptcy and is left with lot of loans. Failure happens. All the work that such a person did not produce any result. Such loss of effort will not happen in spiritual life. That is the positive message. This was mentioned in the 2nd chapter, verse number 40. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna had said, Neha bhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this spiritual life, there is no loss of effort and there is no adverse side effect. Whatever work is done will be saved, and in a future birth, the work done in the previous life will serve as the starting capital. Now we go to verse number 44. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavashopi saha jignasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Purvabhyasa means whatever spiritual practice he had done in the previous life, such a person had done in the previous life. Purvabhyasa. Purvabhyasena tenaiva, from the same spiritual practice done in the previous life, saha avashopi hriyate, he will be attracted to that path. Supposing in the previous life, a person had been practicing bhakti yoga, chanting God's name and seeking holy company and serving the other devotees of God, seeing God in all those devotional practices a person had been doing in the previous life. In the next life, he will be attracted to the same kind of spiritual practice which he had done in the previous life. Purvabhyasa means same spiritual discipline that such a person had been following in the previous life. He will be attracted, he or she will be attracted to that path and will continue spiritual life from the point where he had left off in the previous birth. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate hyavashopi saha jignasurapi yogasya shabda brahmati vartate. Jignasa means a person who is interested in knowing, acquiring knowledge. Jnana means knowledge. Jignasa means desire for knowledge. Jignasu means a person who has desire for knowledge of God. Yogasya jignasurapi. Even a person who is interested in knowing yoga, such a person, Shabda Brahma Ativartate. Ativartate means transcends, rises over. Shabda Brahma here means the Vedic rituals. Vedic rituals generally done as Kamya Karma. Kamya Karma means yajna, special kind of worship and sacrifices done with a specific goal in mind. I give an example. in this famous Ramayana story, King Dasharatha did not have children, and he was a king and a kingdom. So he had to have at least one son, so that when Dasharatha becomes old, he can hand over the kingdom to his son, and he can repair to the forest for Vanaprastha spiritual practice. That was the custom those days. Kings used to give the entrusted kingdom to the son, prince, and themselves would retire to the forest for spiritual practice. But he didn't have any children, Dasharatha. So he asked his teacher. They asked him to do a specific kind of Vedic ritual, which is called Putra Kameshti Yaga. Putra means son or progeny. Kama means desire. Ishti means a certain type of Vedic ritual. So Dasharatha performs Putra Kameshti Yaga, and then children are born. 4 sons are born: Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna. So that is the story. That kind of ritual is called Shabda Brahma in this verse, Shabda Brahma. The person who is engaged in spiritual practice will not be attracted to that. He says, this is not what I want. Not children, not money, not property, not fame. I'm not going to ask for any of those things. I want only self-knowledge or pure devotion. You will not be attracted to the Vedic rituals, which are meant for attainment of spiritual, specific worldly goals. The yogic impressions do not perish even when held up for a long period. This is the idea. Yogic impressions means whatever impressions spiritual practice a person has done in one lifetime, even if it was not enough to grant liberation, that will not be lost. It will be saved. And that serves as the starting point for a spiritual practice in the next life. That's the positive message. I shall explain with an example. Let's see the next verse, 45. Prayatnādyatamaнаstu yogi samshuddha kilbishah aneka janma samsiddhastato yati parangatim. A yogi who strives hard and who has reached perfection in the course of many lifetimes attains a supreme goal, all his sins having been washed away. Samshuddha kilbishaha means in every lifetime we do some spiritual practice and we purify our mind more and more and more, and when the mind becomes completely pure in the final life, we will achieve liberation. So the spiritual life is a continuing and cumulative journey. The cumulative nature of spiritual life, let us understand. This has come before. Some of you have studied this one. It is, spiritual journey is like a long distance road journey. You have heard this example earlier. Every day you travel some distance, and next day when you start, you will travel from where you had stopped the previous night, not from the beginning point. So it is like this. Supposing a person wants to start from Boston to Los Angeles and decides to travel by road, and the journey cannot be completed in one day. So first day when the person starts from Boston, such a person travels whole day and reaches say Philadelphia. And it will be end of the day and cannot travel at night. So such a person stops in Philadelphia that night, first night, and next morning when a person resumes the journey, from where does he resume? From Philadelphia, not from Boston. The distance traveled from Boston to Philadelphia, the first day will be saved. From that point onwards, from where he had left the journey previous night, from that point onwards, journey continues the second day. That journey from Boston to Philadelphia need not be repeated. It's done once. Then next day, the person starts in the morning, second day from Philadelphia, and then he travels, let us say, up to Cleveland or Detroit. Then second day ends. Then second day stop. So when the person gets up third day to resume the journey, from where does he or she start the journey? From Detroit or Cleveland, not from Philadelphia, not from Boston. The journey is cumulative. Like this, traveling every day little bit. After 5 days or 6 days, that person reaches Los Angeles. That is what happens in spiritual life. In every life, we make some progress. Many people take a large number of lifetimes to reach the goal. In one lifetime, most people cannot reach the goal. Some people will. They are extremely capable, intense spiritual practice they will do. In one lifetime, they will reach the goal. Intense spiritual practice they will do, not wasting even one moment. Such people are rare. Generally, people do spiritual practice at a moderate pace, and in every life we make some progress. And then next life, we'll start from where we had left off in the previous life. Cumulative. Nothing will be lost. No loss of effort in spiritual life. That is the very positive message. So even if we do not reach the goal at the end of this life, it does not mean that everything is lost. Whatever we have done in this life will be saved. And from the point from where you had left off our spiritual practice in this life, from that point onwards, our spiritual journey will continue in the next life. No loss of effort. That is what Sri Krishna is saying here. That's a very positive message. Aneka janma samsiddha, verse number 45. After striving for liberation for many lifetimes, tato yati parangatim, then a person reaches supreme goal. Paramgati means supreme goal. Paragati means supreme goal. Liberation will reach. It may take several lifetimes. It's okay. But we will reach the goal. If we persist in our practice, we should not give up the practice. If we don't reach the goal at the end of this life, we should not become dejected and say, oh, I did all those things, nothing happened, what's the use? No need for feeling dejected. It will be saved. From the point from where we had left off in this present life, from that point onwards, our spiritual journey will continue in the next life. For that to happen, we will be born in a family which is conducive to spiritual progress. That is grace of God. If you are sincere in your spiritual practice, in your desire to know God, God will place us in such a condition, such a family where situation is conducive to spiritual practice, to make it easy for us. That is the message, the reply that Sri Krishna gives in response to Arjuna's question. What happens when a person who has done spiritual practice but has not reached the goal dies? What happens to all the work that such a person had done? So that is the answer. Verse number 45. Now there are two concluding verses. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna extols the path of yoga. Yoga here means the path of concentration, meditation. It can be any yoga also. So let us do verse number 46. We will finish this chapter and review a few key verses in this chapter. Verse number 46. Tapasvibhyo dhiko yogi jnanibhyopi mato dhikaha karmibhyascha dhiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Tapasvibhyo dhiko yogi ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद् योगी भवार्जुन. The yogin is superior to the performer of austerities. Tapasvi means a person who does tapas. Tapas means austerities. Austerities here means physical austerities like fasting for long periods of time, etc. Such kind of austerities do have have some benefits, but a person who does yoga, concentration, meditation, such a person is superior to one who does merely physical austerities. Tapasvibhyaha jnanibhyaha shreshtaha iti. Perform of austerities. Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi jnanibhya pimotodika. Jnani here means not one who has self-knowledge. Jnani here means one who has knowledge of scriptures. It is good, necessary, but not the ultimate. Knowledge of scriptures is not the ultimate. To some extent it is necessary to study the scriptures, but merely studying scriptures itself will not lead a person to the goal of self-knowledge. Sri Ramakrishna says, mere scriptural mastery, panditya, is not very good. It will only make a person proud that I have studied all these scriptures and I know all these scriptures. That kind of pride will come. But scripture study, while it is necessary to some extent, it is not sufficient. Such people are jnani. Better than those jnanis are those who perform meditation. Tapasvibhyo jnanibhyopi mata adhikaha. Adhika means greater, better than. So in several places in the gospel you see Sri Ramakrishna saying that mere scriptural knowledge is not good, not enough. Little bit of knowledge, a little bit of scripture study is necessary. The scriptures tell us what to do, what is the goal of life and how to reach it. Two things scriptures will tell us. What is the goal of life and how to reach it. These two things scriptures will tell us. But after having studied the scriptures, knowing these two things, then we have to put the instructions into practice. Scriptures are like recipe books. Recipe books tell us what ingredients to acquire to prepare a certain dish, how to process them, how to prepare the dish. So simply reading recipe book is not enough. We have to read this recipe book to know what ingredients to acquire, how to do. Then you have to put into practice the instruction given in the recipe book. You have to actually do the work. Then only result will come. So scripture study is okay, but not the highest. That's what he says in the first line, second part, verse 46. Jnanibhyo api matodhikaha. The next line is Karmibhyaschadhiko yogi. Karmi means those who do kamya karma. As we saw, Vedic rituals, fire sacrifice, seeking some benefit. Those are good, but those are not the highest. Better than doing those rituals, it is better to practice meditation, thinking about God or the self or Atman. Karmibhyaschadhiko yogi. Therefore, instruction Sri Krishna gives to Arjuna is Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Therefore, become a yogi, practice meditation. This chapter is on meditation. Therefore, importance of meditation is extolled in this chapter. Last verse. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana saddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta युक्ततमो मतः योगिनामपि सर्वेषां मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां समे युक्ततमो मतः. Even among yogis, these yogis who practice meditation, a person who has full faith, worships me, his inner self, absorbed in me, him I deem the most integrated. So here Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Madgatena antaratmana. A person must see God as one's own real self, not as a second person outside, different from oneself. Antaratma is the inner self. One should see God or Atman as one's own real self. I and God are different, that is one stage of devotion. Dvaita, duality, that is okay. But here Sri Krishna is saying a yogi sees oneself as, sees the divine as one's own real self. Madgatena antaratmana sarvesham api yoginam. Of all those people, yogis who practice meditation, those who think of God as Atman as one's own self, they are superior. Yuktatamo matah. Shraddhavan, one is endowed with full faith. Faith means not a blind belief. Faith means a conviction developed by study and understanding. That kind of conviction is necessary. So that Shraddha is defined as a conviction that the words of the scriptures, namely Upanishads, and the words of the illumined teacher, they reflect the truth. They depict the truth. Therefore, one must follow those instructions. That kind of conviction is called Shraddha. Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satyabuddhyavadharana Sa Shraddha Kathita Sadbhihi Yaya Vastupalabhyate. That kind of Shraddha is necessary to reach the goal. Yaya, by which kind of Shraddha, faith, Vastupalabhyate, the goal will be reached, God will be reached. Atmajnana, self-knowledge will come. Shastra Guruvakya. Shastra means scripture. Scripture here means Upanishads, Shruti. Guruvakya means the teachings of an illumined teacher. These two things depict the truth. That kind of conviction one must develop, and one must follow those two things. Such a person is called a Shraddhavan, one who has faith. Shraddhavan yo mam bhajate, one who worships me as one's own inner self. Madgatena antaratmana yogina pepasarvin, among yogis same yuktatamo mataha. Him I deem as the most integrated, yuktatama, closest to me, the best. So this is the conclusion of the 6th chapter. Before we go to the 7th chapter, I'd like to take a few minutes to review some of the key verses in the 6th chapter. 6th chapter is a very important chapter, Dhyana Yoga. So let us review a few very important verses in the 6th chapter. It begins with the importance of performing work with detachment. See, Karma Yoga comes in every chapter. In the first verse, Sri Krishna says, for a person to be able to meditate, the mind has to be made calm, free from attachment, anger, lust, desire, etc. Such purification of the mind can happen by practicing all work without, doing all work without attachment and remaining equanimous in success and failure as required in the mentioned in the earlier chapters. Two things: no attachment to work and its results, no attachment to karma phala, work and its results. Second thing is equanimity in success and failure. Siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva. These two things are the key factors in karma yoga. Unless this is done, mind will not become pure or calm enough, free from attachment, to be able to practice meditation successfully. So that is how the chapter begins. First verse. Anashita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi cha yogi cha naniragnir na chakriyaha. Not depending on the fruits of work. Karma phalam anashritya. When we do some work, we should do it for the larger cause, in the larger interest for everybody's well-being. Not just for me. It will be selfish. With unselfish motive, we should do all work. Karma phalam anashritya, without becoming attached to the fruits of work. Ya karma karoti, a person who performs all work, he is a true sannyasi, he is a true yogi. He or she can practice meditation. Preparation of mind, making it free from attachment and desire, and equanimous in success and failure. These are the qualities required for meditation. And these qualities are to be acquired by doing all work as offering, as worship, as service in the larger interest. That is verse number 1, preparation for meditation. Then we go to the verse number 3, where Sri Krishna talks about Yoga Rudha, Arurukshu Yoga Rudha. Verse number 3, Arurukshor Munir Yogam Karma Karana Muchyate Yogarudhasya tasyaiva Shamah Karana Muchyate. When a person is preparing to practice meditation, he is called Arurukshu. Arurukshu means one who is desirous of climbing. Arohana means climbing. Climbing a mountain or climbing a building with a ladder, or climbing onto a chariot or a horseback or elephant. Arurukshu, one is desirous of climbing. Here, climbing to yoga, height of yoga. One who wants to become a yogi, practice meditation. For such a person, what is the means? What is the method? Karma karana muchyate. Karma is the means. If I want to meditate, I should not say, I will not go to work, I will meditate. I have to do my work. Work is the means. Meditation cannot happen unless you do our duty properly, with unselfish motive and with equanimity in success and failure. That is the requirement. Such a person who is desirous of practicing yoga, meditation, climbing to the height of yoga, for such a person, performing karma, one's own duty, is the means. Karma karana muchyate. But when a person has reached the height of yoga, yoga arudha, for such a person, then he can remain calm and practice meditation. Unless we have done our duty properly with detachment, we cannot practice meditation. I cannot say I will leave work early so I can go home and meditate. That will not work. You have to do the work completely, finish it nicely, then go home and meditate. That will work. You can remember the example of Pratap's brother in the very first chapter of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Pratap's brother was a householder. He had a wife and several children. Once he goes to Sri Ramakrishna and says, I want to stay at the Dakshineshwar temple so I can meditate on God. When Sri Ramakrishna asked him, what about your family, wife and children? He said, I have sent them all to my father-in-law's house. My father-in-law will take care of them. Sri Ramakrishna scolded him. He said, that won't work. First, you must perform your duty. Your duty to the family. You have a family, you married, you have children. You should take care of them. That's your primary duty. Without performing that duty, you can't meditate. Do the duty, then you can meditate. So, karma karana muchyate. For a seeker, for an aspirant who wants to become adept in meditation or rukshu, karma karana muchyate. Karma, performing duty, is the means. How to perform duty? As in the first verse. Free from attachment to the fruit of action. And remaining equanimous in success failure. Two requirements are there. These two requirements were given in the second chapter, verse number 48. In that verse number 48, chapter 2, the whole gist of Karma Yoga has been given by Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So this is the preparation for meditation is performance of your duty with detachment and equanimity. The next verse number 5, where Sri Krishna explains the importance of self-effort. If you want to achieve anything, we have to work hard ourselves. If somebody else works hard, they will get the benefit, we don't get the benefit. So self-effort necessary for anything, including meditation. So verse number 5. Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhuratmaiva ripuratmanaha. One has to elevate oneself by one's own effort. Do not belittle oneself. We should not say, I cannot do this one, I am too weak. We should not say that one. Oneself is one's own best friend. Oneself can be one's own worst enemy. Very important. It depends upon what we think. If I constantly think that I am unable to do anything, I am a weak person, I am a sinner, I don't know anything, I cannot do anything. If you think like that, that's what will happen. We become what we think, that we have seen before. If you think positively, yes, I can do this one, I will strive hard, it's possible, I can do this one, I will strive my best, it will be possible, I will succeed. With this positive attitude, one can achieve success in one's endeavor. Positive thinking. That is self-effort. Verse number 5. Verse number 6 also continuation. If one can be one's own best friend, one can be one's own worst enemy. By doing improper things and taking wrong choices, we can cause extreme harm to ourselves. Nobody can cause more harm to us than we can do to ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. We can be our own best friend. Nobody can help us more than we can help ourselves. So that is explained in verse number 6. Then, verse number 9. This is same-sightedness, samadharshitva. It has come in the earlier chapter 5 also, where Bhagavan says, Sri Krishna says, you should look upon yourself, everybody in the same way, including animals. Verse number 18 in chapter 5, Sri Krishna had explained same-sightedness. Vidya vinaya sampanne brahmane gavihastini sunichaiva swapakecha pandita samadarshinaha. That is explained more in verse number 9, chapter 6. 6-9 deals with equanimity. Suran mitraryadasena madhyastadveshya bandhushu sadhushva picha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. A person who treats everybody alike, including good men, good people, friends, foes, enemies, indifferent persons, neutral people, antagonists, and all other people, if one who treats of them all alike, seeing the same divine in all, such a person can meditate. If you have strong likes and dislikes in regard to people or other things, then it will not be good for meditation. So, but when putting into practice, you have to be careful practically. Does not mean we should be very close, become close friends with wicked people. That's not necessary. From a distance, you can say, yes, God is present in you, but you are not aware of it, so I'll stay away from you, I'll show you respect, but I will not get close to you like that one. So that is equanimity towards all beings, verse number 9 in chapter 6. Then there are a few practical instructions. In a clean place, you have to sit down with the back and neck erect, etc., how to prepare the seat. Those are simple instructions. Then moderation, verses number 16 and 17, moderation in food, sleep, work and relaxation. These two verses 16, 17 deal with the topic of moderation is very necessary for those who do spiritual practice. Eating too much or sleeping too much or working too much, workaholic, those people cannot do proper meditation because it upsets the balance in life. Daily balance in life should be maintained by practicing moderation. 4 things, specifically 4 things. Sri Krishna says in 16 and 17, food, sleep, work and relaxation. So that is 16 and 17. Natyashnatastu yogosti nachaikantamanashnataha nachati swapnashilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. So 16, 17 moderation that we have studied before. Then we go to the next key shloka. All are interesting in this chapter. Verse number 26. This is a very important verse. It shows how to actually practice meditation, Abhyasa Yoga. Verse number 26, make a special note of this one. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Yato yato nischarati manaschancalamassthiram tatastato niyamyetad atmanyeva vasham nayet. As the mind goes away in different directions when we sit down for a meditation, from all those digressions, patiently, repeatedly bring the mind back and make it dwell on the self. There is no other shortcut. We should watch the mind, what is happening in the mind. If you are not watchful, the mind will go from topic to topic and we don't know how we ended up thinking something totally different from where we started. So we should be watching the movement of the mind every moment. The moment it strays away from the topic of meditation, that moment you should bring it back and make it dwell on the topic. That has to be done repeatedly, patiently, as many times as it goes away, so many times you should bring it back. That is the gist of meditation practice. That is in verse number 26, very important verse. Then, seeing the same self in all and all in the same self is a practice that comes in many places in the Gita. That's verse number 30 in chapter 6. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha maya pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. Seeing the same self in all and all in the same self, that is the main spiritual practice. If you see differences, then the mind will not settle down, cannot become calm, and that won't be good for meditation. It also the implication is in what is called the golden rule. We should treat all beings, including human beings, animals and plants, with the same kindness and gentleness that we expect to be treated ourselves by others. If I want others to respect me, I should respect other people. If I want other people to treat me gently, I should treat other people gently, animals and plants included, inanimate objects included. So that is the golden rule. You see, golden rule in all the major faiths. It's in Islam, it is in Christianity, it is in Buddhism, in Jainism, in Sikhism, in everywhere, all religion, Judaism, and this golden rule is there. That means seeing the same self in all, treating everybody alike. This is verse number 32, key verse in chapter 6. 32 is golden rule. Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. So that golden rule, important verse in verse number 32. Then two key questions are remaining in chapter 6. One is, why the mind does not settle down on one topic? Why does it go here and there? And how to make it dwell on one topic? Most important question, everybody has same question. That is in Arjuna asked that question in verse number 34. 34, so Arjuna's question was, the mind is fickle, unsteady. Chanchalam mimana Krishna pramati balavadhridam tasyaham na pranashya tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. Oh Arjuna, the mind is very chanchala, means unsteady, constantly moving from topic to topic. Pramati, it's turbulent. Balavadradam, it's very strong, obstinate. Tasya nigraham na manya, I don't know how to control the mind. It's so difficult to control the mind as it is to control Vayu, the wind. How to do? So, answer is given in verse number 35. Very important verse. How to control the mind, roving mind. So, Bhagavan Sri Krishna does not dismiss the question. He does not say it was so easy I can do. He says, yes, Arjuna, it is very difficult, I understand. Bhagavan Sri Krishna acknowledges the difficulty of controlling the mind. He does not say it is very easy. First he says in verse number 35, Chan asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. O Arjuna, undoubtedly mind is difficult to control. It is very unsteady. But it can be done. Second line of verse 35, tu. You see the word tu means but, however or but. However, it can be controlled. Grihyate. How? Abhyasena ta kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. Two things have to be done. Abhyasa, vairagya. Abhyasa means repeated practice, as we saw before in verse 26. Repeatedly you have to keep on doing. Any art, any kind of skill comes only by repeated practice. Constant repetition. Once or twice if we do, it won't be enough. Whatever art or skill that we want to master, the key is repetition. If you just do once, you won't become expert in that one. You have to keep on repeating and doing it over and over and over again. Then it becomes natural and easy. Then we become efficient in it. Same thing in meditation. That is abhyasa. Second thing is, why does the mind go here and there? Because we have shown interest in all those topics. At one point I was interested in some topics other than God. I was interested in buying a car, expensive car, or interested in food or some dress or something, doing something. So my mind goes there because I had given room to that thought in my mind. I had welcomed it. Now when I sit for meditation, it will come. Now my interest has changed. Now I should say, I am not interested in those things. That phase of life is over. That is practicing detachment, vairagya, abhyasena ta kaunteya, vairagyena cha grihyate. My present interest is in meditation, this topic. I want to think about it. So, abhyasa vairagya, verse number 35. Then last key question in chapter 6 is what we just now studied. What happens to a person, a spiritual seeker, who has done quite a bit of spiritual practice but has not reached the goal? Death comes in the meantime. What happens to all the work that such a person did? Will it all be wasted, or what happens? That was the question Arjuna asked in 3 verses. Verses number 37, 38, 39. Just we discussed this morning. Sri Krishna says, if a person has done some little bit of spiritual practice, it will not be wasted. It will serve as the starting point in the next life. No loss of effort in spiritual life. Unless in worldly life, a person can do a lot of work and the result will be nothing, as we saw in various examples. A person can, the farmer example is given by commentators also. A farmer does lot of work, plowing the field and sowing the seeds and putting the fertilizer and everything. And if the rain comes at the right time in the proper quantity, then the crop will come, flourish. Success will come. If there is not enough rain or too much rain, the crop will not come. All the work that the farmer did will be of no avail, total loss of effort. That will never happen in spiritual life. Even if you do a little bit of spiritual practice in this life, but not enough to take us to the goal of realization, whatever little we have done in this life will be saved, and in next life will serve as a starting point from where we can continue our spiritual journey. And where does the next life happen? In a family which is conducive to such spiritual progress. So Sri Krishna says in verse number 41, 2 options, 2 alternate possibilities. Verse number 41, Sri Krishna says, Prapya punyakritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga bhrashto vijayate. Such a person who has done some spiritual practice but has not reached the goal, has deviated from the path of yoga in the one life. When such a person leaves the body, dies, such a person will be born in a family of meritorious and well-to-do people, sattvic and well-to-do people, where the atmosphere will be conducive to spiritual progress. Such a family where the environment is conducive for spiritual practice, there such a person will be born, and spiritual life will continue from the point for where we had left before in the previous life. Or athava, second alternate, verse number 42, athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam. Yoginam kule, in the family of yogis, dhimatam means very intelligent yogis. In a family where everybody is doing yoga practice, some yoga practice, in such a family this person will be born. So there is no struggle for basic needs and no distraction. If a person is born in a very poor family where one parent is in jail and war is happening, such a family, what kind of spiritual practice can such a person do? The environment must be conducive to spiritual practice. So such a person will be born in a family of yogis who are very intelligent. Kule dhimatam yoginam kule bhavati. Where it is very natural, easy for a person to continue the spiritual practice from where he or she had left it in the previous life. So these are 2 possibilities. Then the most important point is in verse number 43, 44, 2 verses. There Sri Krishna explains the cumulative nature of spiritual practice. That means whatever we have spiritual practice done in one lifetime, if it is not enough to bring us the result, that will not be lost. Next time when you are born, from where you are left off, from that point onwards we shall continue spiritual journey. For example, a person traveling by road from Boston to Los Angeles, one day he travels some distance. Then at night takes rest from Boston to Philadelphia. Next morning when a person gets up and continues, not from Boston but from Philadelphia, from where he had left the previous night. So the journey from Boston to Philadelphia travelled first day will not be lost. That will serve as the starting point for the next second day's journey. cumulative. Second day also he travels some distance, and from where he left off the second day, third day morning he starts from that point, not from earlier point. So spiritual life is cumulative. From life to life, whatever you have done in every life will be saved. And from where we are left off in the previous life, from there we continue our spiritual life in this life. So doing like this over a period of time, many lifetimes, aneka janma samsiddha tatoyati param gatim. A person reaches perfection after many lifetimes, striving for many lifetimes, making some progress in every lifetime, and this effort is cumulative, nothing is lost. That's the very positive message of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, concluding message in chapter number 6. So we shall stop here, and next time we shall start with chapter number 7. So let me say the concluding prayer. Om Sarve Bhavanta Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy, may all be free from afflictions and diseases, may all realize and practice what is noble, auspicious and uplifting, may no one be subject to misery and suffering. Om peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts, Adhyatmika Shanti, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings, no ill will, no hatred, Adi Bhautika Shanti. May there be peace everywhere in nature, Adi Daivika Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well, thank you, and stay well, and let us continue next week by the grace of God. Thanks.